Hi, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of the Dr. Keith Darrow podcast. I am so excited to bring to you one of the titans in hearing healthcare, right? If you are in hearing healthcare, if you work with patients, if part of your rehabilitation program includes using hearing aids, then you know Oliver von Borstel. There's just no way around that. Oliver, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith, inviting me. My pleasure. I feel honored to be in your show.
No, absolutely. Look, Oliver, I wanted you to come on here because without ever having met before hitting record, right? I've followed your work and I feel like maybe I've just been subliminally or subconsciously digesting your message, because even if you look in your background, right, there's a sign that says ethical selling. You know, one of the things I've always pushed is to hearing healthcare providers, stop selling because you suck at it, right? Like, so don't even try to sell them. Just do it the right way, provide education. And so I want to learn more from you about the techniques you've developed. You've been training people all over the world, which indirectly helps millions of people hear better and live a better life. So tell me your story.
Okay. Can keep a very long story short. I'm a Swiss guy living in the Netherlands since 1994. I have a background in business economics and marketing management. I've been managing director, CEOs of multinational companies. Interestingly, one was an American company here in the Netherlands. And I've done a lot as CEO, as managing director. I was actually always busy on the sales front because I was responsible for the results. So in this period, I've learned a lot about international business development. So in 2006, I started my company because I wanted to share my experiences in business development, which one way or the other have to do with selling the stuff you have. So I'm doing CEO personal coaching. I train them in leadership, managementship, but as I have a strong focus in my business on the audiology. Since 2000.
But how does Oliver, how does that happen, right? Because there are going to be people that are listening that are like, this guy doesn't understand. He's got a business background. He's going to teach me some of these tricks to selling. But how do you connect? Because I think some of the smartest people in hearing healthcare don't come from hearing healthcare, because you bring in an outside perspective. So how do you get connected to hearing healthcare?
Exactly. That's a very good question, because yesterday my American friend asked me, could you fit a hearing aid? I said, yes, because I'm wearing them myself. And look, since 2006, I'm doing personal coaching live on the job with audiologists. So I have seen, 1,500, 2,500 assessment meetings. I was sitting there as a colleague audiologist who wanted to learn something when they sold or gave advice about the hearing aid solution. So it's not my background, but I understand a lot. And how did I roll into that industry? I was at the time a board member of the Swiss Business Club here in the Netherlands, where the members were managing director of Swiss companies only. And interestingly, there was the managing director of Berner Phone. I approached him because I wanted to train his people. And he said, that's an interesting thing, but I need something else than that. I've done a lot of my outdoor salespersons. And I said, well, what do you need then? He said two things. We have difficulties in the market because Berner Phone is regarded as a B brand. And secondly, we do everything for our clients, but they don't sell our stuff. So I convinced him.
Welcome to audiology.
Yes, welcome in the real world. So I convinced him, let's do a sales training for your clients, the dispensers, audiometrists, HCPs, and audiologists. And we did that, and it was a great success. First, they were afraid. Now, if we give them a sales training, they sell any other brand than Bernafon. But it was the opposite. So there was a big success, and that made me to develop my ethical selling concept more and more and more, and got in the meantime an international reputation about that.
So okay, so it just seemed to snowball from there, where you were working with Bernafon, and now you've just continued, because I think once people see the success that your clients have, that your hearing care providers, then it sort of catches on like wildfire. Would you look, I'm not expecting you to, give us the 8-hour selling course, but what are some of the principles behind ethical selling? And I love that terminology. One of our power phrases is ethical manipulation, right? Which is you've got to get your patient to say yes to treatment when it's appropriate, right? It can't just be, you have hearing loss. What do you think? Choose from 5 options. You have to bring them with education, with science, with knowledge, to help them make the right decision. So tell us your platform. How does it work?
Exactly. Look, in the industry, in the dispensing industry, if I may say so, the word selling is the most hated word, because we are experts in fitting, in the technology, in dealing with patients, but we don't sell. And I convinced them, you sell, because what almost all of them do is they give an advice, and they have to have an income for the living. So if they give an advice about a certain hearing aid solution, at least after the trial period is a date where it has to be paid. And the audiologist, HCPs, audiometrists, however you want to call them, have an influence on how big that bill is, or how small the bill is. So they are actually salespersons without knowing that they are. But they don't like the subjects, because they have most of them have a lack of skill how to convince a client. So what you said just before we started the interview is, my frame is, stop selling, start helping. And this is actually the core of my concept, that they learn how to do a professional need analysis. Many in the dispensing industry, they just do the clinical hearing test. They have the audiogram. Maybe they have a functional report with it, and they decide, don't get me wrong, they decide as kings, this is what you have to have.
Yeah.
Without knowing them about certain situations in their lives. So that makes me, I'm telling them, you're not selling hearing aids. You give an advice about where you believe in, which would improve the quality of life of the client or patient, if you want, but also of the spouse, friends, family members, or nowadays people living in a retirement home. It's also the quality of life which could be improved of the caregivers.
Well, I love what you're saying, Oliver. So it's funny, because I think and I'm sure you've had a conversation like this, right? Where somebody argues back with you, but I don't want to sell. I'm not a salesperson. I didn't go to school to sell. Okay, fine.
That's fine.
You went to school to help people. I think we can all agree on that. But can we also agree that 80% of people living with hearing loss are going without treatment? that 6 out of 10 times when a patient comes into your practice saying, I have a problem, 60% of the time they walk out without a solution. So you don't actually help. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you say you want to help people, but you're not, right? There's so much more we could do. So I think there's a nice marriage there of you have to learn how to sell, but you're not selling a widget. You're selling medical treatment of a profound chronic medical condition, that quality of life. I love that. I love that you focus on that, because it's infectious. Because when you help the patient, you help the family, you help their community, their circle of loved ones. It's amazing.
Yes, exactly. I agree on that, what you say. Look, the core of my concept is actually person-centered care.
Yeah.
When I developed my concept in 2006, 2007, 2008, this was actually the basis of, I didn't call it, it is a sales training, because a lot are doing that. By the way, almost all of those sales trainings have a focus on handling objections, doing the closing part. But most of them are manipulating a buyer to buy. And in my concept it's about creating a client fan who does positive, proactive word of mouth.
Yeah.
I like wordings because I'm not a native American English speaker, so I'm allowed to invent some words. I also don't call it a trial period. A trial period such as, let's try, but I'm not sure. And if you don't like it, you can give it back, or we try something else. But almost all of those clients expect the expert, audiologist, the HCP, give me your advice to help me. So that's actually what I do. I creating client fans. They are only they become a fan if they are 100% satisfied. Then they recommend you, and I call that that's pure business development.
Yeah, I think again, never met before, never even spoke before, but we're so aligned. I love your term, raving fans. We have a philosophy at our practice. How do we turn every patient into 3 new patients? Right.
Exactly.
And the only way to do that is to provide the best care. And I want to, I love it. And we have a curse jar at our practices, not for the typical 4-letter bad words, but for words like try. So that's one of the 3-letter curse words. Try. Demo is a 4-letter curse word. Trial is the 5-letter curse word. And option is the 6-letter curse word, right? Like, you've got to make a recommendation with conviction.
Exactly.
You don't get to try diabetes medicine for your chronic condition and return it. You don't get to return chemotherapy. You don't get to return your cardiovascular prescription. I understand there are legal, there are some legal ramifications, and a patient is able to reject treatment and return the technology. But in general, if you start the journey with a word like try, you just told the patient it might not work. Exactly. And that's the worst place to start from, right?
Exactly. And that brings me to a very important point. The audiologist, the HCP, has to have the lead in an assessment meeting. For 2 reasons. The client is expecting that, and you don't want to let the client choose a hearing aid solution. Because I always say, you are the expert. The client is not the expert. There are a very, very small number of patients, maybe 1 or 2% out of 100. They are experts because they're wearing hearing aids for 30, 40, 25 years, and they know everything about the technology. But the majority is not an expert. And that is actually unethical what is done in the industry, not only with big boxes. They just say, look, we have different options, what you said. And we have very cheap ones. They're good, but they're basic. We have the middle ones, and then we have the very expensive ones. They have a lot of functions, but they're also very expensive. What do you want? The majority chooses the middle way, and the audiologists are happy. It's even worse. They turn the wheel back and they say, yeah, but he or she has chosen. And I told them it's not the individual best, most optimal. But I say, yeah, come on. They will never turn into client fans and recommend you or your practice.
Yeah. They might as well have gone and chosen it off the store shelf, right? With over the counter and big box stores. If you're going to let them make the decision, then they didn't need you in the first place. And
Exactly.
you will not be needed. You will become
Yeah.
extinct at some point if you continue to hand over your medical expertise to a non-educated, unexperienced patient.
Yeah.
It's as crazy as the cardiovascular surgeon saying, you choose which type of open heart surgery I'm going to do. You choose which type of valve I'm going to put in. It doesn't work that way. And I know you know enough about paralysis by analysis. And when you give too many choices, A, sometimes they don't choose because it's overwhelming. B, humans tend to choose the middle of the road, which is compromising their outcome. So now they're not raving fans. They're not telling family and friends. They're not an ambassador of your practice.
Exactly. And this is very important in the dispensing industry, that they learn how to give an advice. They need to ask open-ended questions. It's not only the audiogram. They are not gods saying, I have the audiogram, this is what you need, or even worse. It's not even a 30 dB hearing loss, so you don't need it.
Oh God. Oh gosh.
I have a hearing loss of 17 and 20 dB. And a lot of my clients, the audiologist says, yeah, Oliver, actually you don't need that. No,
oh my gosh.
I choose whether I need it or not. Since I have them, for instance, I experience music totally different. And I love the functionalities. I love to call with the hearing aids, for instance. And that is something, that's something they have to learn. First, ask open-ended questions. Having the audiogram, that's fine. That's for me, as a non-audiologist, that's the technical data of a person. Then they need to do the professional need analysis, even to discover hidden needs that the client and or spouse is not aware of. Brings me to another subject. When I sit in assessment meetings, whether it's here in Europe or in Australia or in South Africa, the majority of the audiologists just put the focus on the client. Even there's a spouse sitting next to them, they just they're not aware of that. They just ignore them. Despite it's my experience since these 16 years, it's often so that spouses have bigger needs in improving the quality of their lives living together with hobby than the client itself. Clients, having done the hearing test, they often deny, no, it's not that bad. Yeah, I can understand her because she is mumbling. It's not me, it's not my hearing. So that needs a very deep going need analysis before they come up with an advice.
So this interview is about you and your process. Even though I feel like you're throwing me a bone and you're trying to sucker me into the conversation about the audiogram, which I despise. I've run webinars on it. I love that you took the initiative to say, I have minimal hearing loss, but I need help, right? And you're not listening to the hearing healthcare provider that says, oh, you don't even need hearing aids. Yet you've proven to them day in and day out it's changed your life. But that, again, that we could go off probably for 2 hours on that topic.
Oh,
what
sure.
I want to learn about, and I want people to understand, is I know you have a certification process. I'm already seeing the huge value in it, but tell us about the ethical business practices, the certification. What is this program about, and how can people find more information about it?
Yeah, since beginning of this year, I not only hand out a diploma, a certification of completion, if they follow the 2-day training workshop on ethical selling. I made it personal. I teach them, put that certification, that diploma, if you might say so, behind you in your assessment room, in your fitting room. You make that somehow client asks, what does that mean, that diploma? Then you can explain them. We do it in an ethical, responsible way, because our philosophy is we want to help you on a better quality of life, blah, blah, blah. So that made me also that a practice which probably has 3, 4, 5, 6 audiologists in the same location or different location, that I certify them in ethical selling business practices.
Okay. Now, you said 2-day course. Is this live? Is it virtual? Where is it? When is it?
It's on webinar based.
Okay.
5%.
Okay.
It's 95% based on face-to-face in-house meetings. Because why the difference? I have a client in Australia, and they were in dear need to have ad hoc ethical selling training, because their competitor was eating away the market. So we did that because it has to happen on the short term as a webinar. It was actually 8 webinars to 2 hours.
Okay.
And that's a big advantage, because it's lower cost, but the disadvantage is I cannot act as a personal coach with them. And after 1 hour, 1.5 hours, they get tired watching to the screen.
Sure.
So I always prefer to be on the location, because I'm not the teacher. I tell them, not the teacher. I'm your coach.
Yeah.
And what we go through in day 1 and day through is actually my 16 years experience out of your industry where you sit in. And almost all of the practices following that training confirmed by testimonial. It was not cheap with Oliver, but we have earned it back. So, and I certified.
Oliver, you pay for what you get. You want something cheap, you're going to get something cheap. How about this? Most of our industry gets its advice for free because it has no value, right? So you and I both understand that the experience we bring, because we're both coaches, we're both consultants, the experience we bring, it's going to cost you. But I also guarantee 25% growth. I also get, like, this is a minimal investment in the scheme of running a business, right? So I love that you brought that up. And I feel like the cost also puts up that you've got to really want it. right? You have to really want
That's right.
change. You have to invest in it. Nobody's getting rich in audiology as a coach or as a provider, but you've got to, if you really want change, you've got to pay for it, and you've got to pay for that experience. And I would pretty much bet it's worth, I'd bet the house on it. Whatever you cost, it's worth every single dollar. So I think that's fantastic.
I also tell the audiologist, never say the price of that hearing aid costs. Call it different. Call it's an investment in a better quality of life. It's an investment for the coming 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
And the same I tell them when they ask, how much do you cost, Oliver? Then I'm not costing, it's an investment, because also I want to, I give a warranty between brackets. I have to say between brackets, I give a guarantee that you earn me back. And almost all of my clients do. It's when I have 100 clients, it's not 100 clients because it has reasons, but it's at least 90 to 95% who confirm they've earned it back. But good. Look, the power of that concept is actually the small trademark I have, which is in the background.
I love it.
Practices who put that on the shop window, if I may say so, or put it up as a poster in the waiting room, they are asked again by the new clients, by existing clients, what's that? What does it mean? And then they explain, look, we have followed a training in ethical selling, ethical business practices. We are proud on that because our basis is we want to help you. It's person-centered care. So with that, they confirm we distinguish ourselves in the local competitive market. Well, when it is the US, it might be Costco as a competitor or any other big box. And they say, clients confirm, you are the most expensive one here. I saw the other ones, they are 50, 60, 70% cheaper, but I love what I have. I trust you and I recommend you. And there is no better professional compliment in business than that.
Not enough people in hearing healthcare in private practice put themselves in the patient's shoes. And if I'm the patient and I walk in and I'm in your waiting room and I see 5 posters for 5 different hearing aids, I'm already worried you're going to try to sell me a hearing aid. When I walk in and I see a poster that talks about ethical business practices, a certification, it's so different, right? It sparks interest. It sparks questions. It's such a different way to show up, right? And that's one of the things that I know I coach about. Obviously you do, which is be different, show up differently. People genuinely appreciate that. And then it opens the door to the conversation of why you're different. Let me ask you one last thing, because we're about to wrap up here. I know that you are an ambassador of the anti-stigmatization of hearing aid solutions. Tell me a little, and tell the listeners a little bit more about that, because I think that's how we've actually been connected through a common friend, Jeffrey Zamanda. So tell me more about this ambassadorship and this program.
Yes, exactly. You named Jeffrey Zamanda. We are close friends together with Fani Dutoit in South Africa, who stands for the anti-disability of hearing impaired persons. Mm-hmm. He's in contact with IDA Institute and with WHO about that. So the 3 of us, we form a sort of a triangle. We call ourselves the advocates of the individual hearing care. That's what we want to reach. Jeffrey has a concept which is before the assessment meeting. My concept is if you have an assessment, you have to do it in a person-centered care way. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't stop when the experience period is over. I also teach them, actually then it starts. In selling terms, you call that the after sales service.
Yes.
Because the hearing impaired are dependent on that. The majority rather wants to see you back 12 times a year. It's enough one time a year or 2 years one time. But the audiologist have to be there for them. And
Yeah.
in that, I also teach them. It's typical audiologists, when they do an advice, they come to a certain model and they say, yeah, I'm sorry, it's a little bit big. And which color would you like? Your color of your hair? So they actually promote destigmatization. I teach them, tell them that hearing aids actually must be seen by others. And teach your clients how to react if somebody asks, "Oh, you have hearing aids." Teach them how they react back. That I'm proud that I have hearing aids because now I'm able to lead a thorough conversation with you. So that's my role in it.
Excellent.
It's not more than that. So it's not a title I have on the business card, but it's just the word I spread in
it's such important you and Jeff and advocacy not only for the patient, but advocacy and education within our industry is so important. And I think what you ultimately just said is it's not a sales transaction. You talked earlier about don't tell them what it'll cost, tell them about their investment, and then follow through on that promise, right? In medical terms, it's called continuity of care. I think we owe it to every patient to provide that continuity of care, that long-term value. Look, how you do it is up to you, whether you charge, you bundle, you unbundle. That's your prerogative in your business, but you have to follow through on your commitment to the patient. We owe them that because you can't correct hearing loss. You can't cure it, right? You've got to invest back in your patients for the long term. And again, they will become raving fans. They will tell more people. They will buy from you in the future or invest in you again in the future. So it's just good business.
Sure. There is another phrase I use in my training. It's the one guy, the American leadership guru Zig Ziglar said, "Stop selling, start helping."
Yeah.
And the other guy, a certain Rand Fishkin, never met him. He said, "If you want to sell something, sell nothing."
I love that.
First, win the trust of your client. And this is exactly what I teach them. So at the end, they're still salesmen, but they love, most of my clients, audiologists, they love the concept because they say, it has increased my job satisfaction because I have successes. I don't have objections anymore. And before that, I didn't know how to handle them, and I just let the clients choose. But now I'm able to substantiate my advice with arguments and facts, which I have pulled out of need analysis. And actually, this is valid. I always say whether you sell paper clips, pens,
of course,
hearing aids, or nuclear power stations, it's all the time the same. A client, before they say yes, want to have the arguments and facts. Why should I buy from you?
Of course. If they're in your office, they already said they want to buy. Now you have to tell them why they should buy from you. I love that. Yes, Oliver, thank you so much for your time today. I told you before we hit record, we could probably go on for hours and hours.
Oh, sure.
Let's cut it here. But I want to ask one question that anybody watching and anybody who's Googled you or has seen you has wondered the same thing I have, which is, have you ever worn a regular tie or is it always a bow tie?
Uh, I love that question. Yes, I did.
Okay.
I was wearing a tie until 10 years ago.
Okay.
Because I have a friend who is doing the same sales training in Florida, Jim Ullery.
Hmm.
And he was wearing a bow tie all the time. And one time I asked him, look, before I was wearing a tie, and in the industry, competitor says, Oliver, you don't need to wear a tie. I said, why? Yeah, nobody does. And I said, but I'm not nobody. I'm not. I'm different. I'm me. So I saw Jim Ullery wearing a bow tie, and I asked him a stupid question: why do you wear that bow tie? Because it has an image of a little bit old-fashioned
Sure.
grandpa, which
Sure.
I.
Sure.
And he said, because nobody wears one. I said,
Show up different.
Jim, I buy that. Jim, would you be okay if I wear a bow tie from now on? He said, yes, I would love it. I will give you a one as a gift. So since 10
That's
years, I'm the only one wearing a bow tie, and that's my personal branding.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I have thought about it several times, but now I don't know. Now I don't know if I'm allowed to. If you one day are so kind to bestow that upon me, I might give it a shot.
Okay, good, good. I will
Oliver,
try.
thank you. Thank you so much for your time. This has been fantastic. And I can't wait for more people to hear about this and learn everything you're doing, because we really have to change our ways to help more patients. Oliver, have a great day.
Same to you, Keith. Thank you very much inviting me. It was a great meeting. I loved it very much. So, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Take care.